you. Good afternoon, everyone. We have yet now 28 attendants. I'm with Professor Álvaro, and we're going to commence some presentations. We are coordinating this space. We work in capacity building and how do we choose them so that we can discuss them. I'm not sure if everyone was here yesterday. Sandra presented some important issues that have been discussed that originated as 5 working groups. So the first one is capacity building with focus on bioeconomy and for Latin America and Caribbean. We have already 14 points, but we chose 3 points. So we have a very good time so that we can think and so that we can bring some insights and suggestions. So what can we think and propose until the end of the day? So until the 4th and last day, we're going to systematize what this group has proposed, has discussed, and actions for the promotion of non-timber forest products in Latin America and Caribbean. So Adriana, I think you have the slides with our goals. To have a template. So I'd like you to present the main goals of this group. So I'm going to present the women that are going to present. Can you share? Thanks. Okay. So we have our goals here. Some full screen down there. Yeah. I think it's not working, but I guess everyone can see it. Okay. So we have in 3 languages, but this specific is to discuss possibilities to promote the exchange of and exchanging technical, empirical, and scientific knowledge, aiming at the formation of capacity for the implementation of an inclusive bioeconomy. We have a little more that I'm gonna read that we have been working during this meeting, this previous meetings. Some people are attending for the first time in this forum, but we have been preparing for it since last year. So this capacity building aims capacitating bioeconomy, considering integration of different knowledges, empirical and mostly traditional knowledge, building capacity for a good governance in bioeconomy, stockpiling and delivering this product, partnerships, fair partnerships with companies, amongst other. Also, we have women empowerment. We have been talking about this since last year. and strengthening of educational processes. Also, age empowerment, motivating young people to be involved with bioeconomy and to stimulate the economy. Bioeconomy in all levels. We chose 3 presentations. If you can share the next slide, Adriana. I'm gonna call the next experiences. Just to comment, we're gonna have 3 presentations. Can you share, Adriana? You're muted. You're worried about the time. We're going to go to 4:20. So we're going to have these presentations. And the first one, we have in capacity building Cláudia de Souza from the German corporation, technical corporation. Then we have Evelyn Chaves and then Patrícia Oliveira. Cláudia de Souza is going to present about Capacities program, generating capacities for the management of family farm and benches, traditional peoples and communities in Brazil. A little more about Cláudia. She is an engineer. Since 2021, she's coordinating the strengthening and professional capacity implemented by German Agency of International Cooperation in our agricultural ministry. Cláudia, would you like to share? Can I share now, Janaina? Yeah, and you can start. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna share my screen and you tell me if you can see. Is it full screen? I can see full screen, but you can't. Let's see now. Yeah, great. We can see now. 10 minutes, Cláudia, please. Thank you. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm gonna present Capacities program. It's a program that is related to capacity building in organizations for agricultural family communities and traditional communities and people. So I'm going to share a bit of the knowledge we gather in this program. I worked in GIZ and this series project. The program Gestão was developed according to this conceptual model. It's a German company that have been developing capacities in all of the world. So it has been developed by them. It's a model that has 8 stages of development. And so we developed the concept of capacity, the concept of training, and we develop personalized material for that. They can be used in the program. And then capacity, and then coaching, evaluation, and we can have a follow-up. And then at the end, we are generating knowledge.
That's how we developed the Capgestão in terms of evaluation of needs. And this was developed in the Amazon initially. And we did from needs of capacity building together with the communities of the deep south of the Amazon. And from the south of Amazon onwards, we started to do all of these trajectories of the 8 stages. The Capgestão Amazonia was developed in 2018. And at that time, I worked at the Green Markets and Sustainable Growth of the GIZ with the Eco Consulting and IFAM. And so based on that model of development, like I suggested, in the cycle of learning that has as a axis the cycle of development that comes from the experience of the acting, of the reflection, the abstract conceptualization of participation. And we developed the Capgestão with 5 modules and intermodules that are these arrows you can see here, with focus in the capacity building and training of technicians, especially those from APE, with focus in 4 states of the Amazon. We developed this project for the 4 focus states of the project: Green Markets and Sustainable Development, Acre, Amazonas, Amapá. And these 5 modules of the course are developed during 10 months, 215 hours, and considering the intermodules, it's 40 hours for training, and with some that last a month and a half, where the technicians and those who participate are developing the tools learned during the course together with those rural entrepreneurs. And if not enough, during the course, we noticed that it was very important to have a 6th module, which is the sanitary regulation, and going a little bit through these on participative processes, since we do start from a participative model based on concrete experience. And then we go into 2nd module, which management of entrepreneurs and enterprises, and how to value chain values and how to analyze it. And the 3rd module works on the perspective of different markets. And then we start with a model closing the cycle. Like I said, we saw the need of including a model of health sanitary regulations. And finally, we also include one for gender in chain values that was developed in 2019. All of that was the first training as regards the methodology that we developed. We developed 59 institutions that participated in the cycle, around 120 participants and various companies. So the 69 companies of this region, of the 4 states, and we include one more, which was Rondônia. I would like to highlight some of the concrete experiences that were supported and worked on during that cycle. For example, the project HEC, 2 technicians from the HECA program who were farmers, son of farmers. He was the commercial manager, and this cooperative of the Amazon, Beira Amazon, Association of Agricultures, that had, in this case, the experience of a professor from the Federal University of Amazonas that went through this cycle of training, having developed that program over this time and according as forecast in the methodology. We develop our own didactic materials. All of these are available in our website, www.capi.org.br, all for free. So it's a series of materials that we developed. Videos, video classes specifically for the program. And we consolidated the methodology, working with the program already online due to the pandemic in the south of Pará. And with that, we amplify the number of people who were trained. Over 70 companies worked and 223 participants. We closed the cycle in the southwest of Pará state, and we start the Capacities Gestão Cerrado. Now it's in 11 states. We have 447 people registered on the courses that were offered, and we have a series of organizations that are part and amplifying the scope, not only for technicians now. Now we are focusing in the institutionalization of the CAP Gestão. We want that the institutions of professional education be trained and work in a methodology so that they can be owners of this methodology and can take it to their students and their territories. How do we want to do that? From live courses in studios for professors that act remotely, and of course the intermodules, which is a fundamental point of the CAP Gestão program. And just finishing my presentation, I'm going to talk a little about the challenges that we're having in institutionalizing this program. One first challenge is the space of professional education establishment. Long-term training and multidisciplinary, which is still not recognized by the Ministry of Education, difficulty of access of internet, lack of financial resources to incentivize innovations and technical recycling in the institutions, high costs for the development of technical partnership, especially thinking of the issue of CAP Gestão program that has this particularity of developing the practice together with the on-hand practice, and also synergy with the companies and the educational institutions, which is not always the case. So how do we know this and these possibilities? The fact that we were able to leave a CAP Gestão that was participative to a full online program, brought it to the Cerrado. I say that because I am in the Cerrado, I am in Brasilia. The methodological exchange and the strengthening with the professors and with the management of enterprises during the training is not an easy, and that happens afterwards. Amplification and promotion of synergy between those institutions and those that work with the products of the sustainable and inclusive bioeconomy. Now we are designing a CAP Gestão for indigenous people. and who might maybe Capgestão for Latin America. That's our constellation of partners that work with Capgestão. We like to thank all our partners that are investing and promoting that. We've been over 1,000 participants since the beginning in 2018. Thank you very much. Thank you, Claudia. Also known as Claudinha among the intimates. We admire the work, your work, but we'll do some comments to tie it up a little bit with our discussion in terms of capacity building. Me and Professor Patricia, Álvaro, we will comment the presentations. Now I'd like to call my dear Evelyn. She's here since the beginning, who will make the second presentation. Evelyn Chaves, which is a forest engineer, also graduated in Costa Rica, was a specialist in development of agribusiness with the GT1 research and teaching in Costa Rica, and she is also as a specialist in catch. Evelyn will make this presentation on capacity building, training, effective methods of development, and strengthening of knowledge in rural associative enterprises. Adriana, I can't put on the presentation. Can you free me? Okay, yep. Now it's okay. I have Evelyn's presentation here. Thank you. It is a pleasure to share a little bit about, let's see if we can encapsulate in one presentation 25 years of experiences. We can go to the second one, second slide. We in Catch, we work over 20 years. And initially a center of eco companies, and we started to generate a great experiences in terms of designing tools for training for these associative enterprises. Yeah, it's not showing up. You can click on the sidebar. Okay, I'll share again to see if it works. Can you see now? So from all of the experience that we developed, the main subjects that started to be generated, that in the studies of pedagogy, it teaches how to teach and not how to teach adults. So in the school of Paulo Freire, these were fundamental to transform all of the tools that were available for the rural companies that came from this traditional administration of business to a language, to a way that not only was simpler to understand and to learn, but also that allow us to respect people. So each side by side, we're in this process. We started to design, to develop all of this capacity building program in the principle in how we learned. So we have to be aware that the person is responsible for their own development. We have to connect what we learned with our own experience. Otherwise, there isn't a connection. This, no matter how sophisticated, how many workshops, how interesting they were, we won't be able to get that connection, and we will develop very little and growth very little. We also understand that what we learn allows us to be always ready for these issues, and that we've always tried to develop during these processes. We always have to seek this practical application of things, and they have to make sense for people, those that are training as well as us that are in a constant process of learning. No, it's not only that. You put the knowledge of people to improve the tools that we are developing. And something important, which is to keep us motivated. And sometimes we forget we are human beings and we need to have this passion for what we're doing, to what we're connected. So our motivation is fundamental for that anything that we do, that we can transform it in a positive reality for people, to those people who we are training. Well, another thing that we found very interesting in the process is that capacity building cannot be an automatic process. We have here a project, we're working with the communities, organizations of producers that are collecting non-timber products, that are in agricultural production, and we have certain reserves in terms of following our target, public target. We have to have elements, the origin, the need of people to respond in what we can contribute and adapt to those conditions. When we are developing these training processes, we have to have as ample possible of training, but not only of people, but of the organizations to which they're going to go back and to implement. That's why we have to adapt tools to real situations, because these are the ones that are going to go through. And it's also important to alternate the technique with the abilities of people, with the knowledge and our experience. Now, maybe the subject is how to sell in the fairs, in the markets. And of course, there are techniques. And we would say, we have to do these abilities of those people so that they can recognize when we're talking about markets and projects of development. And we understand that no, that we'll alternate the techniques, be it administration and the recognition of people, of what they know, of what they are able to do. Why is it important? And just to reinforce this human side, this makes a great difference. When a person goes through a process like that, some people This happens a lot in the communities. They have limitations to study formally, but informally, they know a lot. And this experience means that they develop a process that is incredible. And to work that strengthens us in this training, paying attention in these abilities, capabilities that all humans beings have, especially this public that are the people from rural companies, from these associations. When we talk about capability, we cannot think in a short term, connected only to the projects or to a short period. We have to think beyond this process. What will happen to the people who come to an activity? They will train, and afterward they will develop it in their communities.
How do they do that? So they have to think not only about the tools, but the development of people. So capacity building. We have to acknowledge the people and follow up. 2 more minutes, please. Next one, please. Next slide. A path that has been working. So to build up this capacity process with our clients. So a capacity building activity had to be motivating for the companies and the institute, the organizations. So what we do is that we have to follow up so that they can develop in their own, on their own, the way that they can participate. And this people, this person who has been in these courses, they are going to reproduce this later then and build other people. Next slide, please. I'm going to end then. So we have to improve these rural companies. They have to enter and improve their value chains, not only because they have limited capacity. We are following up, we are ready for it, but we have to improve that, help them improve that. So change the mentality, exit the way of thinking as subsistence, and that can generate environmental, economical improvements. So we have to impact the markets. And in that case, in the economy, it's also really difficult in the rural economy. So we have to think not only on the producers, the entrepreneurs, but the consumers and everyone related. So we have these roles of buying and selling and capacitate them and improve the service they provide. More than 300 diagnostics. technical assistance, it's very limited. It's a percentage of 80. So we have to be able to help them improve then this relation between them and the companies and the market. So we have many things to do yet, many challenges. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Evelyn. It was great. So that we can see, we had a presentation from GIC and now from CAT. Capacity builders for capacity building in communities. Now, Patrícia Oliveira from Pará. She's then going to talk about post-graduation courses, with technical assistance in Amazonia. We thank Patrícia very much for this presentation. And the use of problem-based learning in bioeconomy, territorial bioeconomy. She's a professor at the University of Amazonas. In postgraduate studies in the Amazon, use of problem-based learning and territorial bioeconomy. She asked me to share her screen, and after that, we're going to begin the debate. I don't know if it's shared. Is it full screen? Yeah. Yes, thank you. You can begin. Good afternoon. Thank you, Janaína. Is it muted? No, it's not. Now. It's open? Yeah? Yes, thank you. Sorry. Okay, can you hear me fine? Okay, thank you, colleagues. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor for me to be here with many colleagues from many institutions dealing with a common subject. It's a pleasure to be here with you, talking and sharing. Well, the topic here, it's about post-graduation. That is also reaching traditional communities that are in areas that we have non-timber forest products. In the master's degree level, we bring here this problem-based learning and territorial bioeconomy. Next one, please. So when we think about post-graduation in Amazon, there are many areas, but I bring here the greater area of environmental sciences. So most of our non-timber forest products are in the forest. So how can we work this? How can this be an alternative and insert this capacity building and make them critical? Being in Amazon with students that come from extractivist communities. Many of them get to a master's degree level. So how can we capacitate them in this, with this view of bioeconomy? So I'm gonna show you the case from the university from east of Pará in Santarém, where I'm based. So how do we work then? How do we capacitate scientists that can work with territorial bioeconomy? Please, Adriana. So we can think that one of the topics, one of the courses in this master's degree that is in a master's and doctoral levels, scientific methodology or research methodology. In this course, I work with the topic of bioeconomy. We have three major research but bioeconomy is not among these three. It's not explicit in these three major areas. So use this theoretical knowledge to connect these young scientists that are learning how to do research, how to produce a scientific document, and how this relate with bioeconomy. So this course connects this young scientists with all this context of traditional communities, and in consequence with non-timber forest products. So in the last 2 years of the pandemic, we have been doing this more online, but we are returning to presence activities now. So these young scientists that have been building in the post-graduation level, we think we can make, what can we make in the context of this course? So this process of sensibilizing people, we use, for example, documentaries, bibliography. So how the Serviço Florestal in Brazil use it. So we gather these documents, many documents produced by government, so that the student in this area of environmental sciences have the knowledge of what is written, what these documents are, and then we discuss the concept of research methodology and the knowledge that they have, and they are practical. So it's broader, it's very multidisciplinary. We have people from many different areas. It's then a course with people coming from many different areas: biology, geology, physics, engineering. Please, next one, Adriana. So we have done this methodology. I like to work with problem-based learning. It has been created in 1969 in Canada. It has been in University of Maastricht in Holland too. And Dr. Woods, he researched and studied this method. So we use this problem-based learning. Next slide, please. We have as an aim, as priority, that we can put students with problems that are real. So we bring all this reality of Amazon with many real problems, and then we put the students facing them, and from the theory, from the research, how do they solve these problems, having then the aim, and how do we think bioeconomy through that? Next one, please. Thanks. So we thought then some steps adapted can be categorized in 3 phases: sensibilization, presenting them to the young scientists in post-graduation of the problem. So no matter where does he come from in terms of the area, a geologist, from physics, they have this sensibilization, but based in their expertise, based in their former knowledge. So sensibilize and tell them that there are lots of problems. We can't discuss all of them, but we can discuss one of them. For example, what the communities say, and what problems do they present. So as young scientists, how do you develop it, as even if it's only a theoretical one? Only 2 minutes more. Sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna run now. The second phase is reflecting then, so the students think about this expertise and how they apply this. Next one, please. So the example we have is bioeconomy in the context in the Rezé Carapininga, Carapinhos. It's done this in Tapajós. How would you do that? So we have this here, the plan, and we're gonna work then on this problem. The question is how post-graduation students in Amazon can contribute to the development of territorial bioeconomy while they are being capacitating. We have this plan of development, like business and seringues, artisans, and they chose which the problems were. They then decided amongst all of this. Next one, please. And that generated then that each student wrote a chapter in many topics: açaí, sucuba, women, and others. So they leave the course as authors from a book. It's a very short course, but we can reach some value change. Tucumã, for example, açaí, pucuri. Fruits, traíra, fish, medicinal plants. So from a post-graduation course, we are relatively capacitated, and they developed some value change. We worked 11 theoretical models. We worked with 11 proposals for bioeconomy and financial, and one extractivist reserve in Tapajós. The last one, please. In a post-graduation level, in a master's degree, we got to capacitate young scientists in Amazon. Many of them come from extractivist community, and this topic of non-timber forest products. And then we prepared them to understand and can reach and deal with traditional communities and the dealing in the bioeconomy of all the products they are around it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Patricia, Professor Patricia. It was a very good presentation. We are worried about the time. Everyone can have access to the presentation. Congratulations for who wasn't in the opening yesterday. Some professors commented that we have already some young people that are entering post-graduation courses in master's degree and doctoral level. We're going to comment later. I'm going to pass over then to highlight some points. It was very good. So that the group we have here, we're going to work later. Adriana is going to clarify the methodology so that we can fulfill our forms. I'm going to highlight the presentation of GIZ. Claudia talked about challenges and opportunities, but I want to highlight the work of Capacities that was true work in this capacity building, trying to think about methodology applied to each reality, not one patternized. So we're going to have always adaptations in new methodologies. If we don't have any time, we can talk later, discuss later. So imagine that it has a little to do with alternating the time they spend training and training community and activities that they do home, and why they have been developed so that they can include new modules. So they can be alert with new demands. So that's very important. It's not to get there with the methodology ready. So that it's good that we think in Latin America and Caribbean in general. I'm just going to highlight some points.
Okay, I think it's easier to look the presentation here. She put this issue of the spaces. Just a moment. PowerPoint here is not working very well. I write down and I can't understand my own handwriting. So this idea of the spaces for professional teaching are limited and for multidisciplinarity. So you have to think that it's not only one graduation. Then it's interdisciplinary, the lack of access to the internet. And one which I found very important is the synergy in terms of bioeconomy and teaching. You have a local demand, but the institutions are doing other things. And many are used to that. And I'll hand over to Patricia to comment. And but if you can put any issues, I don't know if we will be able to answer, because the idea is not specifically on the experiences. Well, thank you for all who presented, but the idea is to continue to discuss. But do feel free to put more comments and questions. I now hand over to Professor Patricia. Thank you, Professor Janaína. Thank you for your incredible work that you've been doing with these rural associations and with the company. Something that I put here, the aptitudes of people, aptitude of people who are that in this capacity building courses, Latin America, most of the groups are indigenous. Some are organized in cooperatives. And I was curious to know if you can answer the issue on how you connect indigenous people that are in this aspect of entrepreneurship. What is this value chains that highlights when you take into account the issue of aptitude of these rural groups? And how do you see, Kaji sees this work, the relationship between entrepreneurship and tradition of these groups that also practice, especially indigenous groups? So how does Akachi and the traditional knowledge, that would be the highlights I would take, and congratulating once more my colleague. Very good. This issue of traditional communities, I think we do these, our speakers speak to speak. Thank you, Alvaro. I would like to thank the three. I like all of their experiences, and specifically, I know her school there. I have a friend there at the university, and I find it very important that you can take your student to be faced with the realities. We have a lot of risk in the academia, creating restricted chickens, you know, like so they don't know how real life is. We're taking people to the field where they can see the reality. A very nice initiative. Many times is stronger in their theme and the work that they have. But when you take all of your class, something that called my attention. And I think is specifically the fact that we are not dissociate teaching from research, because the first work focused more in teaching. And so what I'd like as the closing of this experience, since they become authors and a publication, and what they learned and their proposals in terms of improvement, and all of this 12, 14. And I find it very rich, and I congratulate. I'm very happy that we can notice the extension and these presentations, and specifically congratulations, Patricia, in your discipline. Thank you, Professor. They still haven't taken me out. Okay, I think we can hand over. Professor Alvaro, I think that's it. We have 10 minutes to Claudia, Evelyn, and Patricia to make comment. And Adriana, before Adriana hands over to us, I'm not going to read the 14 points. She already has this in this spreadsheet, and she's going to add others. So I'll just ask for each one of you to make your last comments and to finish this part about presentations so that we can talk to Adriana about moderation. These were excellent presentations, and we hope to tie up all of these issues for everyone to continue with us. Now you can comment. And to start, thank you, Professor Janaína, Professor Álvaro, Patricia, Evelyn, for sharing with us this moment in the group. I found the discussion very good, and Professor Álvaro too. And I'd like to highlight that what happens didn't happen, but we included new modules. And when we started to understand that there was a greater demand of those enterprises, and now we're including 2 more modules. One has to do with communication and management. In the pandemic, we saw that how the issue of communication, especially online communication, and Capgestão was created thinking in order to increase the access to the markets of these products of the bioeconomy, and we find it has to be sustainable and inclusive. Now we start to strengthen the issue of communication. We're starting to design a module for communication and learning, and another module that we identify as fundamental, and it's a demand from enterprises, the issue of financing. So we are also designing a module that has to do with public and private financing and finding the various ways of financing and formulas that exist and that are in expansion in Brazil, especially those directed towards bioeconomy. The issue of intermodules that you asked is time, community, and like Professor Álvaro mentioned, I focus more in the teaching, but Capgestão talks about teaching and management. So I would say our greater focus with the institutionalization of Capgestão, which is the case, which is happening IFPA in terms of concession with the University of Pará, that's developing a professional master's, and with rural extension, the Rural University of Amazonas, the family schools, together with the University of Amapá, we identified that the issue of research will become stronger because the professors now have institutionalized these programs. We can notice that this issue will be now solved, but we work a lot with extension in the module. It's the moment you do the extension from what was worked in education, in the techniques, in the methodology. So I think that's it. I found it very interesting. Professor Patricia brought this issue of the PBL that dialogues a lot. I hope to be able to dialogue more after the event so we can get to see more possibilities and synergy, and to the work that we do in the Capgestão. We developed the Capgestão in Santarém. We had a lot of dialogues with Alfopa. I think that's it. I think this was a great opportunity of discussing and creating these synergies in the group. Thank you. Very well, Claudinha, thank you. I'd like to hand over to Evelyn. Thank you, Patricia, all the companions that are here, and to show our experience. one can face anything. One of the enriching issues is to work with indigenous people, because obviously they have greater limits to learning in terms of language also. So we had to learn, to unlearn, so we could transfer this knowledge. So we developed playing, and with methods, playful methods, and those people did their business plans and could be entrepreneurs and present their business ideas in front of financiers. So when we talk about the need of thinking which abilities and how we can transform, it has to do with the self-valuing and the values that we have, and how to transform in an educational process and of transference. And the most important is to take from this process is the respect to people who we are training, because they teach us so much, and they're the ones who led us to transform these tools. This is for the companies and for the innovative, those, and for innovators, and we were able to transform in tools that work for people who work in these rural associations, and transforming into a language that has to be connected to their experience. And when we can do this connection, we can do this transformation. Another, and I would also like to retake on the idea, the speech of Professor Patricia, and the issue of youth that are studying, that many times they come from these communities, and I didn't have the opportunity to go back to my communities. So in the bioeconomy and in agribusiness, we have to offer opportunities for these students to go back to their communities and to solve issues of employability, because sometimes these people have difficulties putting themselves in the market. And this is a reality of Latin America. How many associations, family associations, and they need assistance of quality, and then we should seek this connection to the market. They are being trained in very well, and they have accessibility because they understand the context of those community and can transform the process and advance towards sustainability. And to end with the issue of entrepreneurship, we are associated to this rural aspect with distant places, some kind of tourism for a towards the territory, governments, states. We have to think about the extension, because they're also the producers. So what happens is that we can base in the organization, associations, where there is a concentration of that public. And I imagine that you, like myself, sometimes see people, they will organize into a cooperative, and people think, I'm going to learn by myself. No. Maybe aren't we not reading well? Aren't we learning? Because in another meeting this morning, we were commenting that many companies that will ask help to the Ministry of Agriculture receive a no, because these are family companies. Maybe it's 2 people, usually small, and they go to the commerce and industry and they say no, because they're from agriculture, they're small, and we have a limbo, and we are not helping this population, that we have to concentrate on to see this new aspect of rurality and strategic projects of development for all communities. Thank you very much. Thank you, Evelyn, great partner since the beginning, the construction of the bioforest. I would like to hand out to Professor Patricia and further comments. And then we leave the command of Adriana and we can complement Patricia and Álvaro of those 14 points. So answering Professor Álvaro, with the restitution, what's the final product of those students that were trained in for bioeconomy? I'm in an academic master's. Bioeconomy is something that's very much applied. And so I kind of, in terms of methodology of research, I do a little bit when students who come from physics, they don't want to study climate. When I talk about bioeconomy, I have to make them get in the context of bioeconomy, or when I get a nutritionist, because the thesis of them, they're not the proposals with like chapters in a book. And these work very easily with bioeconomy because our professors work with that. I just want to think about bioeconomy in a different way and to apply it and to shake their heads a bit. Wow, I was thinking about my thesis, but I didn't think I could have this application as well. We want to break our masters that has a great area. And you can think about bioeconomy in terms of only environmental. That will study, for example, butterflies as a bioindicators of sustainability. I can make the student think, okay, I can think we can put butterflies as something that can get money, or someone who will study genetics of fish. And we put, look, you can study genetics, pure science, but this fish, can you restitute a bit to the community that this species that you will study, the DNA, the sequencing, that has a fantastic economic importance for those communities. So in the chapters of the book, it would be a dream if the boys could work in what we proposed. We proposed as an exercise. Obviously, they come with different themes. Of the 100%, when they shake it up, I can have 1%, 2% that can change the theme. They still haven't broken this discipline. Sometimes it moves your head, that you can do, for example, that pure science, but there are also ways you can do the restitution you were asking about. So your work as an educator, the contribution to the bioeconomy and territorial bioeconomy is the contribution of having human resources, creating a critical mass. If they're going to work with that or not, okay, there is this problem.
But it's great. It was great. I think I expect for you to contribute tomorrow and on Thursday. We're going to bring the results from every working group, and who knows, plan some actions together. Okay, everyone is invited to participate in the next working groups tomorrow and the final plenary in the last day. I thank you very much for the participation of everyone. I thank you all the panelists. It was very inspiring. And now I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be with our colleagues and brothers from other countries, Patricia, Fatima, that are in the group, in the organization group. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Good night. Thank you. See you. Bye.